So you've heard of the Hard Rock 100, right? 33,000 feet of climbing and 100 miles in the San Juan Mountains of Colorado. Well, have you heard of the Ouray 100? 44,000 feet of climbing in the San Juan Mountains of Colorado. Jackson Hole Town Square. Getting ready for winter. The arches. We're going to talk about one of my athletes today who raced the Ouray 100 this summer. She came in first female, broke the course record, and was 4th overall. We're going to talk about what she did during the off season that you can do that really led to this success. But check out this view.
48 in Jackson Hole, 41 in Yellowstone. Saturday night, mainly clear. Low is 17 in Jackson Hole, 14 north in Yellowstone. On Sunday, lots of sunshine, high of 48 in Jackson.
It's just amazing out. It's time for a run.
Today's shoes choice, since I'm going to be on the road, the Ultra Escalante Racers.
All right, it's 20 degrees. Here's got my mittens. I'm probably gonna be overdressed. If you see this thing dangling from my waist, this is a football hand warmer that I use to keep my GoPro nice and warm, because in the cold, the battery lasts about 5 minutes. I'm gonna head up the mountain for a nice little climb, and we're gonna dial into what we're doing today and what you're going to do over the off season. Let's go. Okay, definitely not overdressed. The wind's blowing in my face and it's really, really humid with all these clouds out. Brr. I was running in shorts and a t-shirt last week. Oh, it's cold. It's cold. Humid, that's what's making it cold. Anyways, back to my athlete. Just started my climb. Got about a 10-minute climb. Haven't been climbing in a long time. Been on book tour all of September and writing a book. The funny thing is, you write a book on running and you really get out of shape. So I got to get some climbing back into me. That's what I'm doing today. Back to my athlete. I mentioned she won the Ouray 100 and broke the course record. We're going to talk how she did that. It all goes back to what she started to do in the off season or early season to help her prepare for that race. But let's get this climb going. I don't know if you can hear this wind, but man, is it blowing. So our plan going into the Ouray 100 was, since there's so much climbing and vertical gain, 44,000 feet of up and down, we obviously needed her really, really strong. And this started in the very, very early season. And our goal for the race was to take the first 80 miles as easy as she could so she could then make that last 20 miles at a faster level of effort. And she accomplished it. And this is no small feat for this style of race, for this style of course. But again, it all went back to what she did in the early season. And with a course like this in the mountains, so many runners place so much emphasis on the uphill. We're going to talk about the downhill and how that strength is probably the most important strength you need specifically for ultra running. But in general, downhill running can provide tremendous and very, very important type of strength that all runners can benefit from. So don't get me wrong, being strong for the uphill is super, super important. And becoming efficient is super important. That's a big part of the training in general. But a lot of times athletes don't put the emphasis on how strong you need to be for the downhill when you can take advantage of being faster on the downhill versus placing so much emphasis on running well uphill and then having to slow on the downhill and use that for recovery. The eccentric loading of the downhill is wonderful, wonderful strength. Training the downhill helps your cadence, helps your isometric strength to become better, and it makes you so resilient to any type of running. So the downhill eccentric strength is crucial. But what I want to talk about today is how this needs to be phased in throughout your training program and what you can do now in the off season, so to speak, to begin that process. And that starts with learning to have good foot strike on the downhill. That foot strike, that subtle forefoot strike, needs to take place for the strength to take hold in a proper way, in a biomechanical way, and that's crucial. So I have my athletes early season or the off season begin to run downhill very, very easy, so they're able to have good foot strike, and therefore every step is strength training. If you try to run it too fast, gravity's going to pull you into a mistake, and you can start to reach out and heel strike and lose the strength gains that we want to get. So this is crucial early season, and the reason we do it early season is because it allows you that patience to not have to run it fast or not want to run it fast. So the key is slow down enough to have good foot strike and see every step as a form of strength training. And what this form looks like is kind of like this. The key to downhill running is not to beat the quads up. Okay, that leads to IT band trouble. It leads to a lot of dysfunction that I've talked about in other videos. We don't want to beat the quads up by heel striking or relying on gravity and just falling into the hill. That's something that we just don't want to do. So what we do want to do is we want to focus on what I call propelling ourselves downhill. We're going to land underneath us, strike the ground, and then push ourselves downhill. And just like I mentioned when I'm running up something very steep like this, I like to practice downhill very steep because it's very, very unnatural. It pulls us into a mistake of wanting to heel strike or to really use gravity rather than propel. So if I can do it here, I can do it on most any hill. Okay, so I'm going to put the camera down and demonstrate a little bit. Okay, so what I mean by propelling ourselves downhill is what we want to land, strike the ground, drive into the ground, no different than if we're running on flat, and push ourselves downhill. Okay, it requires a lot of practice and a lot of patience and trust in yourself. And again, that's always going to be dictated by the grade as well. Okay, what we don't want to do is reach way out and heel strike, or a mistake I see athletes make, they think they have good foot strike, but they're still reaching way out. They might land like that, but look, I'm way far out. I'm overstriding, everything comes here. Okay, we still want to strike the ground somewhat underneath us, land and propel. Okay, this is where the practice comes in. Okay, it takes a lot of practice to like I said, to trust yourself to do it versus relying on gravity. If you rely on gravity, you're just braking every step of the way. The Gros Ventre River, all post this full video on my art of the downhill at the end of this video if you want to watch the full episode of that. It's really good. Ultra marathoning, especially in the mountains with a lot of vertical, most of the uphill is going to be hiking. Placing so much emphasis on running uphill and having that strength is important, but I think again overshadows the importance of downhill running and the important strength that provides, not only to perform in ultra marathoning, but in general strength as well. Again, if you're not an ultra marathoner, learning to run well downhill and garnering that strength will benefit any running strength for any type of running. But again, going back to the off season, we want to start easy and learn to develop the muscle memory for good foot strike that is the strength. And then as the season progresses, you naturally get just a little bit faster and faster with good foot strike. We don't want to run so fast that you get pulled into the mistake of overreaching and overstriding, and therefore then creating some imbalances, getting IT band trouble, tight hip flexors, because of the quad dominance that heel striking provides. Okay, so for today, I've got 2 10-minute downhill descents. And I'm taking them just nice and easy and relaxed, focusing on my foot strike. That's all I'm focused on. It's strength training. Every step is strength training as long as that foot strike is good. All right, so give it a try. That's all I got for you today, man. It's beautiful. It finally warmed up once the sun came out. So thanks for coming along with me on this run, and bring on winter, right? All right, over and out from Jackson Hole. As always, run strong, run free. Pass this video on. See ya. All right, I'm headed home, and I forgot to mention, these downhill runs early season, it's a great opportunity to run them in a very minimal shoe. So again, you're reaping the benefits of the strength training that's taking place and the purpose of this. So find a nice flexible shoe. Since we're running easy, now you're really working your feet, you're working your foot strike, all good strength.